Start over?
You're good.
Okay. I'd like to call the first meeting of the Community Dashboard Task Force to order and start off by discussing why we're here and the purpose of this task force, and then we can go into the discussions that we need to, start to get to the end. Purpose of the task force, during our strategic planning process, we've started the discussions of a community dashboard to put those important metrics on our website that the public can go out and evaluate and monitor to really get an idea of how well the city is operating in certain areas of what we do. So our goal as this task force is to take the initial list that we developed at the last strategic planning meeting and really whittle it down to the final items, and then make a recommendation to council sometime in the hopefully near future to finalize that list and then actually start working to get those items on the website. The beauty of this is a lot of the items we've been discussing will also fit with our performance measurements that we use in our budget process. So it'll give us an idea on a staff level of what metrics we can be looking at and really tie to our budget as well. So there's no set timeline or time frame for this task force, so we can hold as many meetings as we need to, but in the essence of everyone's time, it'd be nice to keep these meetings to around an hour if we can. But like I said, we can meet as many times as needed. If we want to meet weekly, every other week, it really doesn't matter. But at the end of the meeting, I'd like to kind of set the next 2 or 3 meeting times up if we can, and then that way we know where we're going.
And I think I heard you said you'd like to have this all done and wrapped up by when, June?
Well,
July?
that's the optimism in me, but I think we need to take as much time as we need to on this.
Okay.
So we'll kind of play it by ear and see how far we get with each meeting. But on the board behind you, after our last strategic planning meeting, the Studer Institute gave us a document listing the different categories of dashboard items, and as you can see, there's about 14 different categories. We had broken into groups and really discussed what items were important to us, and so in your list that hopefully everyone brought, the ones that were discussed among the groups are highlighted. So I really don't, some of these items up here, tourism, education, they're not really within our control, but there are important items that our citizens probably want to know about. So I don't know if that we should have a brief discussion on the categories or just launch right into the items as we go and just kind of see where we get. So floor's open.
The one thing that I would say, if we're going to do a dashboard, one of the things we needed, and Suter talked about this, was a metric. How do we measure against these things? So if we're going to have something up there for the public to see, and I was looking at the City of San Diego's performance dashboard, and of course they have a little snapshot of some percentages, but you hit on that and then it clicks onto and then it's into bar graphs and data, and it's measuring against something. So I would say if there's something you're going to put on the dashboard of these, it's got to be something we can measure against.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And that was our original, Studer's also training our leadership team, and we had started the discussion about a dashboard too. And we had started talking about breaking it up by departments and maybe having 2 or 3 per department. Mm-hmm. But it's a little bit different how we broke it up here. So, and just this is really what we're going to measure all kinds of stuff internally. Mm-hmm. We're trying to find the most important things that a citizen would want to see and how the city city is.
Okay, so our target audience is the resident of Fort Walton Beach versus somebody who's, hey, I want to find out some information on Fort Walton Beach.
Or could it be a potential resident
Yeah.
of Walton Beach as well?
Okay,
It's really the public.
all right. Well, I guess what I'm getting at is somebody who's casually just looking up Fort Walton Beach, but, you know, somebody that, one, lives here is our primary audience, and maybe somebody who might be moving here that's seriously interested in, hey, I just got stationed here, or I got orders to come to Hurlburt or Eglin. I want to figure out which city I want to move to.
Right.
Or
even a potential business.
Yeah.
You know, really too, on the flip side of that too, is that, you know, if you go to the city's website, you're either looking for information for a compliment or a complaint. And, you know, complaint maybe, man, it took the fire guys X amount of minutes to get to our house or whatever. And if your measurements are on there, you know, they may go there from a negative standpoint, trying to find what our guidelines are.
Mhm.
Or if their business license or something takes way too long, or, you know, something like that. Those are some things I think people would be going to the website for.
I mean, we can make this thing as big or as small as we want it. I mean,
I don't think you want, I don't think we want people searching for, you know, you want stuff to kind of stand out like those examples we got. You know, they had 3 or 4 tabs, and it was pretty easy to maneuver around and find out what you're looking for.
and we'll definitely have to come up with like a marketing pitch, or, you know, where we guide people to that dashboard, because this is totally new for us. And it's also good because we just redid our website, so it you know, we could put a link right at the front page. And
Is our goal to have one for each category, or are those just really the categories?
these were the categories
'Cause
that,
that seems like almost too many to me.
Yeah.
You know, just,
well, and like I said, we had started down the road of having 2 per department. That would be
Right.
16 to 18.
yeah.
You know, depending on how we broke that up. You know,
Just
there's
seems
14
like
categories
so
up
many.
there. So,
I think you'll probably be able to condense some of those down into some broader categories. I was thinking along a lot of the same lines as you, won't being able to capture stuff or whatever. I was recently out in Colorado and went through Fort Collins out there. Great city, and because I'm a weirdo and love this stuff, I looked them up, and look, they had a community dashboard, and it's awesome. And so, well, we've got some stuff coming up. I'll make a few copies. And this is on their page, or city manager's page or whatever, and it breaks it down. Those are each, yeah, those are the broad categories. If you're interested in that broad category, you can click on it, and it takes you to smaller categories, and I just ran off one here. This is the one for economic health or whatever. And I think that's probably how we can do this, come up with those broad categories. And then if you're interested, we'll have 3 or 4, 5 metrics that are within it. These are great, they're color coded, you know, if you're doing well, it's green. If it's kind of iffy, it's you got the yellow, and if you're not where you want to be, it's red. This is ClearPoint strategy software. And
Okay.
I was introduced to this stuff, it was back when the Governor Sterling Award stuff. It makes it very easy, makes it easy to collect. And so as we move down the road and we're wanting something nice that works well and whatever, that may be something we want to look at.
I think this is a good guide too, with some examples of what to include. You know, to complement off this, I had some ideas as far as falling under some categories. This is really just to start the conversation. Safety, education, and growth. And, you know, when you look at some of these examples Chief just sent out, like, you know, for an example, local unemployment rate could be under a matrix of capturing growth or lack of growth over the period of time. Commercial vacancy rates under growth. But, you know, and like Mr. Beatty mentioned a little while ago, with education, yeah, those are out of our control. but what can we do to foster those relationships with the school board or with the superintendent or with the different stakeholders in education to either improve education or continue to succeed in education. And then safety, obviously many things can fall underneath safety, police, fire, roads, sidewalks, different things. But anyhow, some overarching 30,000, groups. This is just 3 that kind of came to me as I was doing some homework as well. I would imagine there's more than that the public would be interested in seeing, but just some caveats to start the conversation off with.
Sure.
The city of San Diego's basically broke it into 3 major groups. The first one being safe and livable neighborhoods, recreation, and inside of that would be recreation and culture, public safety, and infrastructure. And the second major group would be resiliency and economic prosperity or sustainability. Some of the issues were economics or economy and finance and transportation. And then the third was high-quality public service or public engagement, and, civic engagement, communication, and customer satisfaction. And some of those definitely fall in that. But I'm also inclined to, of course I like education, but if I had to start paring that list down, I think that'd be one of the ones I'd take off, because I really think that's a lot of the county ought to be having it on their dashboard if they had such a thing.
Well, I'd like to respond to that. I mean, we gotta keep education as a priority.
Well, what are you measuring?
Well, I mean, that's what we're here to try to figure out. We got to keep education a priority. I'd hate to not make education something that we.
How do we facilitate it?
Well, and we're not opposed to having external metrics on our dashboard.
Yeah.
It's just, we would have to get that data,
From someone
from someone else. So.
Yeah, for an example, schools in our city that are Title I schools.
Yeah.
We might not be able to impact the policies that those schools make, but we might be able as a city to improve the neighborhoods to not allow that school to be a Title I school anymore. Title I schools are based off of income and the student population with that poverty income. We as a city can impact that data by increasing job opportunities for higher income families and things like that. So what that does is that evolves into the education realm of now over the course of 5 or 10 years, some of these elementary schools aren't Title I schools anymore because of the income levels increasing in our neighborhoods and our communities, which provides a lot of evidence-based research on the better income and the better opportunities the schools have and things like that for our education.
And that also could be tied into citizenship, employment rates, plus average salaries and so forth like that.
Right.
Okay.
And all that stuff is important. And then we would just use our community partners like the EDC and the school board. And those, we would just pull their data and just update it. There's no right or wrong with this. I mean, there's a million different. We could probably pull 100 different cities, and they're going to have 100 different
ways,
dashboards. Yeah. So it's really up to us. What are the important categories that we think the public is interested in?
When you look at this one here, what they're actually doing versus, instead of like categories, they're actually saying that it's almost like they're saying these are their strategies for their city. Like in their strategic planning, they wanted, because if it's Fort Collins provides high quality built blah 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 blah, and efficient government, and Fort Collins provides safe and reliable multimodal transportation and stuff. So it's almost like those are strategies for where their government wants to be, and then as you click on the categories, it's how to measure
They're
those.
measuring the places, are they making progress on the goals? Exactly what it is.
Councilman Locklear brought up an interesting statistic, I think it was San Diego, but I love the fact how they're capturing the data for civic engagement. I think the public really is interested in that, whether it's a current resident or someone who might be interested in moving,
Yeah.
when someone gauges to see if the community's really engaged, it seems pretty healthy. If it's a 7.5% voter turnout, it's not too healthy.
Mhm. Well, I think we all can agree that public safety's got to be on the list.
Safety for sure.
So I tell you what we could do is just take a look at, as they say, the easy one, because we know that's got to be in there. And then to talk about what are the things we want to measure and show to the public in public safety.
Yeah, which is kind of where we had started. So, and I mean don't pay attention to the titles; those can change however we need to. It's really starting to break down, and whether we eliminate some of these or break it down, because a lot of these are similar that in our original list, but those that are highlighted are the ones that the groups last time focused on.
Do we keep records on police and fire response times now?
Yes.
Do we have a standard that we try to achieve, or we just got average data?
We have a standard that we try to achieve, and it's established by the National Fire Protection Association. And so we have that. That's what our measures are that we turn in quarterly, sometimes a little late. Is measured against those standards.
Yeah, and I was just talking to the police chief the other day about that, and he said there are similar standards that the Florida Department of Law Enforcement sets for average, crime per citizen and, or different areas, or average number of officers per citizen and things like that. So there's like a standard for that. I mean, the crime stats really, I think, is pretty important, either like crimes per citizen or violent crime, or just something like that. I mean, that's something that I think that almost has to be on there just to.
Underneath that safety scope, as well. I mean, there's so much data you could pull from safety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would imagine crime.
And I think like the departments will, measure a lot of individual ones. But yeah, they could all then come into an outcome of, I don't know, safe city or whatever.
Because again, I'm trying to look at this through the perception of someone who either has no idea about the city or might know a lot about the city. And, I like what you said a little while ago, Michael, about we can make this as little or as big as what we want. And sometimes if we have too much data, how much will that user want to engage into the website or engage into it? Now underneath the 5 or 6 or 7 or 4 or 3 scopes, you can click on safety and get a whole bunch of crime rate or a whole bunch of response times or a whole bunch of different data. But visualizing it with 3 or 4 or 5 small categories that underneath each one of those categories, depending on how deep the user wants to go into the content, instead of just throwing, not that this was recommended or suggested, but instead of going to the website, just seeing a whole bunch of just data that could blind the person.
Well, and I think the other underlying effect of this is civic engagement. Right now, I mean, you can see from our council meetings and other meetings, voter turnout, it's something, this will hopefully drive people to our website, get them more interested in what we're doing, and then, increase that engagement level. But I'm with you, we don't want to overwhelm them with too much data. That's why I think it's our job as a task force to figure out, and this is going to be an evolving item. We're not going to say, hey, here are 20 dashboard items and that's what they're going to be for the next 10 years. We may figure out, hey, this one's not really important anymore. That one's going to drop off. We add to it, take from it. I mean, it's going to be a dynamic We got to figure out how often do we want to update it.
I think by keeping it simple, you know, really the succession plan of different dioceses or different task force committees 10 years from now, you know, by keeping it smaller and focusing on the priorities of safety, or whatever we determine the priorities that we think the public will want to see, and after, but making it where it's, again, succeeded for other task force to pick up and run with. So that, because for an example, you know, increasing civic engagement is not something that's going to happen over 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. It's going to take a lot of effort through PIO efforts and through us strategically getting whether it's adjusting when we do our elections or things like that. It's going to take some time to really get that data as far as civic engagement to increase. So where I'm going with this is not so much just us prioritizing what we want, but what we think future task force or dashboards committees or you know, they'll value as well.
Sure.
Because it's going to take future task force dashboard committees to value this, to keep, whether it's civic engagement going up or crime rate going down. We want to hopefully change that data over a 5-10 year period of time.
You know, one starting out too, just looking at this one with the safe community, I don't know if you want to break in the safe community into neighborhoods inside that one. You know, maybe people looking for a place to live could click on safe community and go, man, I want to live here, or maybe not here, or wherever. But I think that can encompass a lot of things with just the safe community title. But for people coming there, maybe looking for jobs too. Where they want to live, and so in that one, you know, you got our vacant housing and then our employee turnover. If somebody's coming to look for a job, if they just type in Fort Walton Beach, they may be looking for a job, and then when they're doing that, they got to find out if there's a place to live, maybe affordable housing, or you know, some of that, all that can fall under safe community, and you know, maybe another title, but. You know, you kind of almost got to look at what are people coming to our website to do, or the majority of them.
That's a good question.
You know, I mean, a lot of them, if they type in Fort Walton Beach, you know, they get to maneuver their way to FWB.org, and those are what they're looking at. You know, maybe to look for a job or to move here, find a community.
Yeah, that brings up a good point, because I think if I ask myself that question, we all might have our different reasons on why we would go to that website. You know, what inspires me is going to that website and saying, okay, how over the next 2 years or 6 years can I work with others to improve the safety or whatever
Right.
the case may be. Where the question, if asked to someone else who's interested in moving from Atlanta to here, might be, where's the safest neighborhood?
Yep.
You know, that's a good question, though. What can I do, or we do, to improve those neighborhoods that need to be impacted by safe environment?
Yep. But really, even in the safe community, I mean, you can add your sidewalks and roads and whatever measures you have there. I mean, our goal is to have X amount of percentage of our streets lined with sidewalks, and what our numbers are at now. Or
Street lighting. I mean,
Street lighting, yeah.
Go into that.
So many
Just
subgroups.
depends on how much we want to put in here. I mean, I think, you know, Doug's had a lot more experience with this than me, but, you know, the average Joe is probably not going to sit there and be interested in a laundry list of all these little bitty things. It's, you know, the big hitters, you have 4 or 5 things listed under each one.
Yeah, we got to
Things
remember,
we
this
think
is
are
like
the most-
right up front.
Right,
Yep.
and then obviously if they have questions.
Yeah.
Sure.
They can always call or get in touch with more stuff that we have.
Yeah, I mean, even under that one, I mean, the safe community, like we just said, the response times, is there a park in the neighborhood, sidewalks, you know, that kind of thing, and that's what they're looking for.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing if we have education and stuff, we'll have to get that, because it can be a one-stop shop for somebody who's looking, hey, I might want to live there, let's see. It's a one-stop shop, they can see it, but I wouldn't want to recommend that being on on our dashboard because it's something that we can't control. We can't move the dial on that.
Yeah.
It's information good for our website somewhere, but I don't know if it necessarily needs to be our dashboard, if that makes sense, because we don't move the dial on that.
Well, just a couple of quick notes just on the public safety. If I looked at, I wrote down 3 things: crime rates, and then that could be basically broke down between property crimes or violent crimes. A measurable, I would think, is that I guess there might be some statistic on per capita on what the nation average is. How do we compare to other communities? That's a measurable thing. Fire response times. You just told me that there's a standard that we try to achieve. And people want to know that, hey, we got a fire department that's meeting that standard or even exceeding that standard. Probably police response times, and that could be tied into, 9/11 calls and how quick they're processed and wait times. But if I was looking at something as far as public safety, those are like 3 bullets that stand up at me right now.
So we want to try to, in here, at least in this first meeting, try to narrow
Yeah,
down
and-
to three kind
And
of.
while we've been talking, I just jotted down 4 categories: public safety, quality of life, efficient government,
Yeah.
and economic development.
Bingo.
It's a good list.
That is a good list.
I mean,
I think those are 4 nice broad areas that we had talked about. And then there's some sub-bullets underneath that we
Yeah.
would look at.
Yeah, and that's the thing, we want the initial dashboard to just be simple, easy, and then if they want to break it down further, there'll be links there to go to the department websites or, departmental metrics kind of thing. But
What were the 4 again?
public safety, quality of life, efficient government, and economic development, or health, or whatever we want to call it.
Efficient government?
Yeah. And my thoughts were public safety, police, and fire.
Health was the 4th. Health.
And economic development is what I said, but we could, quality of life would be like your recreation,
Yeah, parks.
parks.
Well, and that quality,
Events.
and can't we, I know we can do anything, but we'll be working with, was it Mason-Dixon to get that quality of life
Yep.
survey?
Yep.
So a lot of that data can be pulled
Mhm.
into this quality of life.
Yeah,
Dashboard.
But I was just thinking, that's the kind of stuff that, is in addition to the core services, sidewalks, things like that. Efficient government would be, we could have financial metrics, utility metrics, things of that nature. And then your economic stuff would be permits, CRA stuff. We could even throw, if we wanted to have external measurements on there, we could even have a 5th, just, external, whatever, I don't know, but.
Well, I think that sort of wraps the problem around, it scopes it to where now we can now start, as they say, peel the onion back. a
Well,
little bit.
I threw those out,
That's sort of in line with when I was looking at other examples of how they sort of broadly group the different issues.
Like you said, it can always expand later.
Mhm.
Crawl before we walk, and
Yeah.
walk before we
Yeah.
run, or whatever.
And I know I'm the education guy that keeps throwing education back in this. I'm gonna come back around
Yeah.
one more time.
Yeah.
You know, underneath that quality of life, I think we can pull.
Well, you can definitely put,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, because that is.
Education is a
yes.
huge quality of
Yes.
life.
Yeah.
You know, if we don't keep and y'all are exactly right. We can't control policies and things like that at different schools, but, you know, for an example, again, the level of income is based off of a lot of things that determine how certain schools are rated based off of free and reduced lunch programs and things like that. If we see that data shifting very, very low over the 5 or 10 years, what are we doing as city leaders to try to improve that
Right.
level of income?
Right.
I see where you're going with that.
As well as too, you know, we have some schools that are knocking on our doors and meeting with Realty House to try to find land to come into our, well, they're already in the city, but to expand in our city.
Expand, yeah.
You know, there's a lot of data showing that a lot of students are leaving public school system and going to different alternative schools or Montessori schools and things like that. So our community wants different options for education. So underneath that quality of life portion of the dashboard, you know, pulling a lot of data from the community on what their quality of life subcategory education, we can pull from there. I'm going to keep fighting for education. I just want to put that back.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, hey,
Well, a great indication of what you just said is, and if it goes back to, you know, quality of life, is if you could, what's the percent of the kids who get subsidized lunch or some kind of, I call it feeding assistance, I know there's a name for it, but.
The free and reduced lunch program.
Yeah, how many kids of our, you know, Fort Walton Beach qualify for that? That's an indication of the economic health of the families that these kids are going to. So I can see that as a viable indicator.
And what can we do as city leaders to put pressure to change that
Yeah.
data?
Well, it could be back to encouraging more businesses for job opportunities so that the economic salaries go up. Kids are no longer in need of assistance or subsidized lunches or something like that.
Yeah, I like those four, Michael. I mean, I don't know if anybody else has anything to add to those four, and we can always, again, peel the onion back
Yeah.
and break
Yeah.
more subgroups underneath each one of those four. There's so much we can put in those four.
Yeah, and I think if we bound the discussion within those four, then as we get more familiar with what we're trying to accomplish, then if we want to expand. But right now, I think that's a good place to start this discussion.
Okay.
So public safety, quality of life, efficient government, and economic development. I like it.
So, public safety, you know, mainly police, fire. Robert submitted a list of items to me, but, you know, we purposely put both of y'all on this because that is a huge, you know, it's definitely a core service. And information is, you know, we just had this discussion Tuesday night during the annexation. We've got to develop the message. Why should people live inside the city? Why would people want to annex into the city, move into the city, open a business in the city? You know, and a lot of times, I mean, police and fire are right there
Sure.
with it. So, what do we think? You know, I mean, we had a bunch of highlighted items, but a lot of them were pretty similar.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Well, you know, like I said, I think you take the ones that are probably the most, we measure a lot because we're in that business. There are certain things we're looking at that the public is probably not gonna care about, but I think we're right, on the right line there, if we're looking at response times against a standard, an established standard, or staffing against an established standard. When I say staffing, I'm talking about there are standards for that also, about putting numbers on the ground.
Yeah.
For different types of
Mhm.
fire. There's, one of the ones that we measure currently was actually in Fort Collins when I looked at it, is how many fires do you go to where you contain it to the room of origin, you know, because it's, as much as we can, I think we should, you know, we measure things about the quality of things, just not numbers. It's, instead of saying we go to 300 fire calls a month, I think the public is much more interested in knowing that we're at 90% of the time we're showing up within 5 minutes.
I think so
Not
too.
necessarily we're answering the phone 200 times each month, but that we're answering the phone on about the second ring 90% of the time. I think we can show the quality of things, just not counting numbers.
Yeah, if somebody was to tell me,
That's what
oh,
they
we
wanna
respond
know.
to 5,000, well, 1,000 fire calls a month, the first thing I would say, well, is that good or bad?
Right.
With
I don't
one
know.
guy,
Is that high or
12
low?
minutes to get there every time.
Yeah.
So I like what you, I echo you that for me as a citizen, I want to make sure that, yeah, you might respond to 1,000 fire calls in a month. I want to make sure you're at my house within 5 minutes when I call you.
What's important, yeah.
That's to me is the statistic that I'm interested in.
And there's some great stuff with the consortium that we got back in.
Yeah.
Some great measurements in there.
Yeah.
Where we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Some of the
Good.
stuff that we think the public would be interested in seeing, those 3, 4, or 5.
And,
You
and,
dial in on those.
and let's just say, let's go down that conversation, and if it looks as though for some reason we have a negative trend and our response times are going up and up, well, the question would be, why? And then in that way, we could fix the problem
Right,
or propose solutions
Right.
to the problem,
right.
okay?
And we'll send you the info on this benchmarking consortium that we just joined.
Yeah,
Um,
it's.
it's a lot of
It's
good-
a massive document,
Yeah.
but if you can go through it, do they have access to the U drive or anything like that?
No, I don't think so.
I can send them a link to it if you get it.
Okay.
What is
Yeah.
this?
It's the Florida Benchmarking Consortium. They gather data from across the state from every county municipality.
Mhm.
And they have the comparisons of, if you want to know, you know, how does the number of police officers that we have per citizen compare to the number that Orlando has, or, you know, whoever. So we
just joined that.
yeah, we joined
Yeah,
it, and
that's
we're gonna
good
be
stuff.
providing them our data in the future to compare, but right now we have access to their report from previous years so that we can see.
Hmm.
And like Chief Perkins was saying, you know, we're not sitting here creating brand new measurements. I mean,
Right.
they're all out there. We just gotta pick the ones that are, that for us, yeah.
Yeah,
And,
you can overdose on the.
Yeah.
next
Oh,
stomach
yeah.
itself. There are tons, and they're, you know, all of them are good, but we pick out the ones we think the public would be most interested in. We don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
Keep it, you know, 4 or 5 on each area we're looking at.
And we measure a lot, like for police right now, it looks like we're measuring sworn officers per 1,000 citizens, which ours is 2.25. The state of Florida's the average is 2.22 or something, because we were just looking that up.
mhm.
So I think a lot of that is gonna be like, do we have the actual numbers? And some of it we may not, but I think Quentin was saying you couldn't, you know, you started and then
Yeah.
it may be 0 today because we don't measure, you know, we don't have the data, but something we can start tracking.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and we have to really make sure we're comparing apples with apples and oranges
Right.
with oranges for some of those places.
Does it have information in there about crime rates, how we compare to other areas?
the benchmarking, it does have the crime stats in there for other areas. It doesn't have ours in
Okay.
comparison, because we haven't started providing our data.
But we have the data.
We have the data, yeah, it's,
Yeah.
like in the comprehensive budget document, it has some of the information. It would just be a matter of,
Yeah, not that I know what the data is, but you were talking about how to sell the city. If I was to say, hey, our crime rate is lower than the state average, or
Right.
something like that. Or the surrounding areas, if you're thinking about moving to somewhere else.
Yeah, like Chief Beige, he has number of police incidents overall for the year, or whatever time frame. But then he also breaks it further down, number of Part 1 crimes, which are your violent
term, Part 1.
crimes. So that kind of tells you, we could have 10,000 calls in a year. Well, that may sound like a lot,
Right.
but violent crime-wise, it may be really, really low.
Yeah.
So, but we can break these down as much as we want, I'm sure, especially fire's probably the same way,
Yeah, and how all this, a lot of this falls underneath that scope of quality of life and safety, I think if we keep going back to at least those four, economic development, efficient government, underneath there you can throw in civic engagement or different things like that. Whether you're a possible or future possible resident or a current resident, safety and quality of life and efficient government, economic development has got to be a huge data point that we got to make sure we're improving.
Yeah, and I think one of the, homework items we'll leave with today, we'll get a copy or a link to that Florida benchmarking report. And if you want to look through that and start picking and choosing some,
You can overdose.
Yeah.
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 I think it's like 5,000 pages
yeah,
or something.
it's pretty,
Crazy.
Wow.
pretty stout.
Yeah, we don't want to drown.
Yeah.
I think getting down to the categories is a huge step.
Okay.
Now, I think, we need to shift focus for our next meeting to whether we break it further into subcategories or just start talking about what types of metrics or items fits into each category. And if that's another homework assignment, start,
Sure.
figuring those items out. Of course, staff's gonna have a little bit more advantage than Kirby and David.
Do we
because-
want to maybe divide up the categories so that we're not all researching the same category, or do we all
Yeah,
want
I
to
mean,
just, look at it? It just may be more efficient to do
Yeah.
it that way.
Well, when you said research, are you talking about actually coming up with statistical numbers or
No,
just
No,
broad
no, no, no,
categories?
That's not
No,
the job,
just-
that's not our job, yeah, that's not our.
No, don't come up with any
No,
numbers.
our job is to come up with the
That's my
actual,
job, you can't have it.
what we're
You can
gonna
have it.
measure.
The scope.
Yeah.
I just thought,
It's a good, we have
obviously they
8
could
people,
focus
if
on-
Chief Beige isn't here, but we could get 2 on, get
Yeah, get
Yeah.
2
two
people
on a
working on
Yeah.
it, and then kind of compare notes to
Yeah.
get.
Well, yeah, the chiefs can work on public safety.
Mm-hmm.
Brandy and I can work on efficient government.
Yep, that makes sense.
David and Jeff, quality of life.
Love it.
And Kim's not officially on here, but she's getting an assignment anyways.
There you go.
Kim and Kirby,
Voluntold.
economic development.
Yeah, if we, by the time the next meeting, we each come up with our own, and then we kind of compare what,
Yeah.
what he's and I've been, and
Yeah.
then get a good list. Obviously, we're gonna have some of the same ones. And
Okay.
Do we want to keep it to, let's say, no more than like 10 in each
Yeah,
category? or-
yeah, let's limit
And
it because
that way we'll bring it to the
because
group and
we
we'll
could
get
all
some
come, we could all
feedback,
come
yeah.
up with 10 or 20 each, I'm
Yeah,
sure, but,
No more than.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be 10.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Good.
Who's in econ development, Kirby and who?
Kim and I,
Miss Barnes,
the two Ks.
you know.
That fit well.
Yeah, yeah. So, does everyone have their calendars available?
Let's see.
I didn't bring my phone with me, but,
Let's see, when does
Have
snapper
it
season
memorized.
start?
This weekend, right?
Yeah.
Are Thursdays a good day for everyone?
Good for me.
Let's see. Yeah, usually Thursdays are a good day for me. Yeah, the 13th is good for me.
Well, next week's kind of off because Brandy's out and I'm out.
Oh, okay.
Portions of the week. I was thinking we come back on the 20th,
20th is, I'm open.
same time, same place.
I'm good.
And then we also go ahead and schedule the 27th.
Good.
And then at least that gets us through the next two. We'll do 3:30 both days right here. You know, and
20th and the 27th?
yeah, and we'll leave each meeting with homework assignments. That way we're not sitting here,
Good.
you know.
Excellent.
Wondering what the next step is.
Yeah, yeah.
I like it.
So we leave here today. Kim will we'll get a link to the benchmarking report. And then you have your assignments for which category to work on. Limit of 10 each.
10 each per.
Yeah.
10 each group.
Mm-hmm.
5 each per.
Got it.
Anything else for the good of the task force?
Appreciate everyone doing this.
Yeah.
It's gonna be good.
Yeah, you know, when I talked to Quint, when we decided to set this up, you know, he said, it's gonna take you guys a long time to figure this out. And I was like, we'll see about that.
doesn't know us very well,
Bunch
does
of-
he?
A bunch of task-oriented people.
Yeah.
Give me a deadline and a task, and
Yeah.
I'm going, off I go.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Input from citizens? Okay, I've just spent months walking around my neighborhood, Pinehurst and Bel Air subdivision. I have a lot of input from citizens. Oh, sorry, thanks. So, I've been thinking about coming to the council saying, who the heck do you want to be here? Who do you want this city to be? I am real encouraged by this. I
Okay.
happened to just see it in the paper, so I, wandered on down.
Mhm.
This is my business card, which you don't have to pay any attention, but I wrote my cell phone number if anybody would like to talk to me.
Okay,
When you want to know what a citizen wants to hear, I can tell you.
sure.
Thank you,
Okay?
Ms. Lyon.
I've been in business in this county for close to 40 years, in this city.
There you go.
My office is in the county, but still work all over the city. I'm in the schools a lot. I have family, grandkids here, but like I said, I just spent from last October through January or February, I don't remember exactly when, going out and talking to the entire neighborhood, okay? So you want some opinions, but I'm real encouraged with this committee, okay?
Well, thank you.
Thank
you.
Appreciate you saying that.
Anything else from the public? Okay. All right, well, thank you everyone for your time, and we got this is a very important task for us. You know, it's a branch off of our strategic planning, so we're definitely moving in the right direction to figure out where we want to be, so thank y'all.